Hello and welcome to another episode of POOLZCAST. Today we have the team of TRRUE. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Having us.
Thanks for having us.
Perfect. First thing is if you could quickly introduce yourselves and your role in the company.
Yeah, I'll start first, I suppose. I'm Owen O'Driscoll, the CEO and co-founder of TRRUE. My background, I suppose, as a serial entrepreneur. I've been self-employed since I was 23. Started working in the blockchain space while I was studying horticultural science. Started working for a company called Eternity back after they did their ICO back in around 2016 or 17. Was a lead ambassador there for 4 or 5 years. Represented Eternity. Eventually went on to found TRRUE, which is really focused on digitizing real world assets in combination with digital identities in line with European standards. And we have an ESG engine as well to help unlock capital. But that's a little bit about me and a little bit about TRRUE, and I'll pass it to one of the guys.
Arjan?
Yes, I'm Arjan. I'm also a co-founder of TRRUE and CTL. My background is in IT. That's where I started my career. Then at a certain point, I made a switch to the corporate services sector until the point that this technology called blockchain came around, and I immediately understood what this technology can mean for enterprise applications, and that's actually the point that I went back to IT and blockchain, and I never left in that sector. I've also been involved with Eternity. I was also a lead ambassador there, just as Owen. That's also where we met each other. And within TRRUE, I deal, as I said, with the technological side of the whole project.
Perfect.
And my name is also Owen. I spell it slightly different to Owen O'Driscoll. And just like I spell my name differently, we are very different in terms of our skills and knowledge set. So I'm a 30-year veteran of traditional financial services, asset management, fund administration. So I'm very much a boring debit and credit accountant, risk frameworks, and regulation. So what the other two guys bring in terms of vision and Web3 and various things that can be done, I'm very much the person who's keeping our feet on the ground and making sure that we're safe from a regulatory, legal, taxation perspective, and that we do everything right in terms of protecting the end investor and consumer.
Perfect. Now, tell us a little bit about the project and the key differentiator you find compared to other projects in the Web3.
Yeah, so a little bit, just to, I suppose, to give you a flavor of where it actually comes from, the whole project. Myself and Arjan met, I suppose, as he mentioned, back in the old Eternity days, way back when it feels now, like, because crypto years are like dog years, right? So it feels like it was forever ago. But I like being an entrepreneur, shareholder, and traded everything that you can imagine, used every platform that you can imagine, and even then, I suppose our focus was in trying to figure out how to really digitize RWA so that they could function very similar to the utility tokens that we were used to of the day, so that you'd be able to have as much ease and all the rest, right? One of the big problems was digital identity and being able to actually do these things in a regulatory framework that was possible. So myself and Arjan then were kind of really dug down in deep, and what we discovered is that regulations kind of bleed into each other, but they're all set out in a little rule book, and if you follow that rule book, it's actually a guide to how you can build your platform and stay on the right side of the regulation. So that's kind of what we headed off to do. And what we've created, I suppose, is a layer 1 blockchain that's built on Substrate, which we feel makes us a bit more interoperable. We've got a tokenization engine, which is blockchain agnostic, and on top of that sits a TRRUE Invest platform, which is a fully regulated investment platform that allows people to buy digitized equity shares. But our ecosystem is built, I suppose, in line with some of the older philosophies that it's a proof of stake network. We have an interactive digital identity system, and this allows us to kind of create a more regulated structure around, I suppose, a Web3 ecosystem. And this way you can come, if you're a regulated entity, and build on top of this, knowing that you're going to be protected. For us, we have a particular focus on ESG. And for those that aren't aware, there's new regulation within Europe, which means everybody working in Europe, or if you're a company working into Europe from anywhere else in the world, you're subject now to two major regulations. And one is SFDR, Sustainable Financial Disclosure Regulation, and the other one is a Corporate Sustainable Disclosure Regulation. These two things have actually created a really complex environment that has stopped the dispersion of capital towards impact companies or ESG companies. Just to frame what size market that is, ESG has become slightly polarized because of greenwashing, which is fair, but it's led to 2 trillion euros worth of earmarked capital that are designed and that has been earmarked for impact innovation. The lack of verifiable credentials is stopping investors from dispersing this capital. TRRUE goes directly to solving that problem.
Yeah, perfect. Now, tell us a little bit about the backers and partners that you have.
Yes, so and I look at Owen Motherway can maybe talk at this as well, but I will touch quickly on it. And that I think it's really interesting that we're seeing we like the founders of one of the largest asset management companies in Ireland have exited and created a new fund called Data Ops, and that fund is specifically looking at data-driven technology, ESG type data plays. Sorry, my dog is with the bark, and a few other bits like that, right? But I suppose we see it as being a sign of big Web2 money now coming into the Web3 space. And they came in really as a connector to kind of grow the network once we're up and right.
Yeah, I think what I'd probably add is that, possibly up to 18 months ago, Web3 was very much a digital thing, a community of computer science people, and on the various use cases, digitization that could be brought to various different problems. But there's been a real groundswell of support now coming from traditional finance. You've seen the launch of various ETFs holding Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana has an ETF in Brazil. So the mainstream traditional financial markets are now coming through it, which is interesting for us because that's where we have seen our seed investor come from, traditional finance, and they can see all of the utilization of the tools that we're building, be that tokenization of real world assets, verifiable credentials, or our ESG AI engine that's in a global regulatory sandbox. All of those things really chime very well with traditional risk and regulation and the preservation of capital and the protection of investors and consumers. So that's where we're seeing a lot of our backers coming from at the moment. And then we also have many Web3 interested parties and letters of interest in undertaking that we're currently working our way through with another half a dozen partners. So it's a really exciting mix of traditional finance backing their future, and some current Web3 enablers who are just looking to expand and make their own products better.
Perfect.
If I
Now,
would maybe mention one interesting partner as well that we kind of maybe skipped over. So TRRUE is actually a VASP. So we've got a virtual asset service provider authorization by the Central Bank of Italy that allows us to do similar things to like crypto exchanges, but we've got some additional pieces in there, including like custody, as well as like the ability to sell digitized equity for crypto, which is a really unique type thing to have on your VASP. So in line with this, we've actually partnered with Matterify, and Matterify is a self-custody institutional level wallet infrastructure. So we've done a full partnership with them. So that will be probably some of the earlier stuff that we're going to be bringing out in January, but it's a really, really exciting tool. And maybe for some of the early users, we might be offering a little special wallet to go along with that. Maybe a bit of a leak there, but that should be coming out soon.
nice. Now, tell us a little bit about the token utility for the token holders. Why should they have the token basically, and what benefit does it provide for them?
So again, I think like so we're all really excited about the utility within this token, and it comes back to I think the fact that we've started with such a strong base of being able to create an ecosystem. I know that that term is often bandied about in our industry a bit, but so we've really created an ecosystem for companies to be able to tokenize and digitize their identities and their assets in the middle, and that includes asset managers, big fund players, these type of people. And on the other side, we've created a TRRUE Invest, and that's for people to be able to raise capital using a crowdfunding service provider license from 0 to 5 million and 5 million up to 100 million. Now, if you can imagine this type of portal for a Web3 community allows them to actually get access to real world assets that function very similar to utility tokens. They're able to get discounts using our utility token. They can also stake and vote on the kind of projects that happen in there. And then in the infrastructure layer, when you think about the different products we have, so one of our big things is TRUE Govern. So it's having infrastructure that can integrate with different institutions and build products on, and that all runs as well on TRUE Govern. So for me, it's the different types of utility that can happen all the way through the ecosystem. I suppose obviously staking and governance is a big thing for us. So having community vote and the community having a say is a really big thing for us.
Got it. Now,
And I would add to this that one of the things that's really unique about TRUE, and as a technical person, I'm very happy about this, is the fact that now people who are looking to run or fund an ESG project get access to a blockchain that was made for them, where this compliance that can be quite difficult is taken care of for them because it's a part of our protocol. So if you're a builder, then it will be much easier to build on blockchain specifically for this ESG niche. And that's a major benefit that you will not find at other blockchains.
perfect. Now, tell us about your roadmap in the next 1 or 2 months. What's the plan in your roadmap? Short term.
So I'll take the high level and Arjun can do the next. But so we're planning on releasing our alpha TRUE Chain Q1. And we hope to couple this with probably one of the early versions of TRUE Invest as well to start onboarding people. That's kind of where we're looking at the short horizon. Ideally, we'll get mainnet out quite soon after and have people building away on top of it, right? So I think we're about to announce some alpha signups pretty soon. Maybe I've leaked something there again. But Arjun, I don't know if you want to go into a little bit more detail. But that's Q1 is probably where we're going to be looking at like TRUE Chain and TRUE Invest.
Yeah, well, you actually said it quite accurately. There's not that much for me to add except to confirm that this is indeed correct. In the first quarter of 2025, we intend to launch our alpha network, which is a network that will quickly change. We keep updating it based on the input that we get from partners and stakeholders. And then we release on a feature by feature base, and at the point that a feature becomes production ready, we are going to move that on to the next step, and eventually a production network will be set up, but that's of course for a bit further in the future. So for now, this alpha network is really meant to start testing with stakeholders and partners to get their input, to see what they want to build, to make sure that our network complies with what the market actually needs. That's why we picked this iterative way of working in direct communication with stakeholders and partners to really build a product that people want to use.
Right. And just to mention on the back of that, I suppose, because some of our early users will be quite interested to know that there's some really exciting RWA projects that are looking to, tokenize from the impact world using TRUE Chain. And those will become available on TRUE Invest. So that pipeline is really starting to fill up. And I think our users are going to be pleasantly surprised by the innovations and the kind of exciting things that these companies are doing in the real world.
Perfect. Uh, Now, you already touched on about alpha and some benefits, but is there any specific giveaway or testing campaign or something that the users can join now or coming soon?
Yes. What I would say is it's not officially announced, but you will see something very, very soon looking for people to sign up to start on actually multiple stakeholders, both already we have companies signing up looking to use the platform to tokenize equity to access investors and launch there. And then we've got a long list of people because we're delegated proof of stake. We've got a pretty long list of really high-end operators that are going to help. They're going to be running our nodes, as well as all different types of ecosystem people in between who can maybe issue verifiable credentials. We have some interesting partnerships with Munster Technology University. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of exciting bits that are happening all coming out kind of together. But yeah, really exciting time.
Perfect.
And I think what we're probably seeing is as excited as we are and as much of a pipeline as we had for all those different projects, there's been a significant momentum in the last 2 or 3 months in traditional markets to do with tokenization of money funds, tokenization of equity, debt, government issuances, and so forth. So we actually I think are coming to life at just the right time to intersect with the momentum that is happening in a space that wouldn't traditionally really have used Web3 abilities.
And one thing as well, I think for us, like so, we've been working on the kind of ESG impact space for ages, right? Um, and one of the things that not frustrated us, but one of the things that we were struggling to wrap our head around a little bit is like this polarization that happens within ESG. But in the last kind of 2 or 3 weeks, I've seen a dramatic shift just within the Web3 industry. Like if you like, Vitalik did a great talk the other day, and he was basically speaking about polarization within environmental social governance, but he was calling it moralist, right, good or bad. And you see that SUI did a massive partnership with Zan based on a new ESG form of tokenization of assets. So I think there's a couple of pieces where we were convinced that we could create a system that if we could get rid of greenwashing, we could get rid of the polarization within ESG because that's the major problem. And I think we're starting to see a massive shift just even within our industry, and specifically when I see Vitalik talking about it for 20 minutes on Friday, of our technology actually going to solve those problems. And personally, I believe Web3 is actually it's perfectly, whether it was custom built, but it's perfectly built for the solution, right? So combining digital identity with digitalization of assets and decentralization of storage, this is the kind of solutions we need to actually go to addressing the problems in the first place, right? Sorry,
Correct.
just a little rabbit hole.
No, no, all good.
No, but like it's a really important point because I mean what we have seen in traditional markets, particularly with impact investing, ESG, and other forms of investment, is you know firms are marketing what they say they will do, or marketing what they say they will invest in, or marketing what they will screen out of their investment portfolios. And then when the rubber hits the road and you dig deep, it's not all as truthful as much of it has been laid out. But aside from TRRUE, if you think about some of the fundamental principles of blockchain, immutability, transparency, provenance, all of those pillars, when you put those in an ESG context, means you can put complete traceability from the statement of the investment manager all the way back to the actual asset and the underlying product that aggregates into that asset. So you have complete traceability down to the very fiber of the investment, and then the immutability of reporting that goes with it. So it's all of these things are now confluencing at this moment in time, which I think is what Vitalik was trying to get to the last day when he called it morality rather than ESG or impact or whatever. He just talked about doing the right thing, but that needed to be traceable, reportable, have a provenance, and have a dominance.
Look, I mean, most of us here are probably around long enough to remember the early DAO, we'll, we'll, every code will be law, we'll decentralize the world. And a lot of the earlier principles that we used to all talk about, like, when we first got into this was all about that, decentralization of wealth, better thing for the environment, social governance is good. And we got into this weird polarized situation where the original mission was really good. The bad actors overtook the good actors within the space. We ended up going through like an ICO mental craze. Regulation was nowhere to be seen, but was kind of in the horizon. But because there's so many existing regulations, I think that Web3 or blockchain companies, DLT companies, kind of got a bit caught on the hop, right? So yes, there was no clear regulation around DLT, but there was plenty around payment, anti-money laundering, all of this sort of stuff that skewed, I think, people's perception. So we've always been looking at regulations, but I've been at so many events, even up to like 2021 at Denver, where they were like, "Oh, this is never going to happen. Regulations never going to happen," and people were up on stage and we were actually talking to the regulators. This is happening in January, and people were still trying to create utility tokens and or do mental gymnastics to create utility tokens to get around regulation. And I think that if you were watching the regulators, you could see that was coming to an end. So
Sure.
you were better off starting with a good solid base than trying to come up with some sort of mental gymnastic to get around it, because
Yeah.
those days are kind of over. I think.
Sure. Thanks for that. Now your IDO and listing is very soon. IDO, I think, on the 18th on Pools, and then listing soon. Could you tell the community about your listing plan and any alpha you want to share regarding that?
Yeah, so we will be listing on the 27th, 1 p.m., definitely on MEXC, and we're going to be announcing one or two more other launch pads this week. Hopefully, there'll be lots of engagement on these central exchanges as well, and there'll be some bigger announcements for January. But yeah, there's a strong roadmap of exciting announcements coming and exciting partners that we're about to join up with.
Perfect. So that was the end of Q&A part. Thanks for the answers. Now I'm just gonna give you a minute or two if you want to cover anything that wasn't covered in the questions you want to share with the community of pools.
Um, what are you thinking, guys? Is there anything interesting that you want to bring up, or?
I have to say, of all the AMAs I've done, that's the hardest question I've been asked. Um, um, for me, I think we're at a really interesting juncture of what Web3 can do and how it can integrate and coalesce with the traditional finance markets. I mean, apart from the new products that people can invest in now that are, have an underlying of crypto assets, you see rhetoric from all of the big players like BlackRock, Franklin, Fidelity, BNP, and they're all heavily going into digital assets. And this is more than just crypto assets. Digital assets covers a wide spectrum from crypto assets all the way into tokenization of verifiable credentials. And if the large, big behemoths of traditional finance are now running at pace to try and make some of this work, then it really is a sign that the tide is really turning and that this is going to come crashing forward in the next 18 months. And I just think that we are in the right place at the right time. As a team, we have an amazing skill set. I would say that it's a very biased statement, but I mean, we do have a very interesting, eclectic mix of pure Web3 people, deep-seated developers, lawyers from a fintech arena, and compliance, and myself from traditional assets. So we have both sides of the fence, and I think we're a good bet for people to be associated with and to learn from and learn with.
I would actually maybe go and I think you're 100% right, and I think actually the regulated piece is probably a little bit interesting because what I would say is because of the strength of our team, we would have been working kind of very closely with regulators for quite some time. Like we're in the FCA Digital Sandbox in the UK. We got selected for the GFIN, which is a global financial innovation network, and we were also selected of one of 20 companies for the European Sandbox. I'm kind of more saying this for any other founders that are out there. The whole regulated thing seems like they're super scary. I mean, I remember the first time that we went in to meet the Central Bank of Ireland. I was sweating bullets. It was very nervous, right? But like the regulators are open to discussion though. That's kind of for any other Web3 founder out there who's like regulations are coming in, I don't know what to do. Get a good partner that's familiar with this and just get in and talk to the regulators because they're definitely open to figuring out, and it's quite a quid pro quo, right? They're willing to put you in a sandbox if, as a thought leader or as a Web3 founder or whatever, you can also help their thinking. So yeah, regulations have changed really, really quick. We've got MiCA coming in Europe, so I think for everybody in the Web3, the time is perfect, right? In the Web3
Yeah,
community.
perfect. Thanks for your time, guys. I wish you all the best for the upcoming IDO on Pulse, first of all, and the upcoming launchpads and your listing end of this month.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
for
for your time,
hosting.
Thank
guys.
you for having us.
Thank you.